Clemson didn't just enter the transfer portal, they took control of it and are building real momentum.
You are Locked On Clemson, your daily podcast on the Clemson Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Tiger fans? Morgan Thomas here, Clemson fan, Clemson grad, host and producer of Locked On Clemson, part-time host and producer over on 105.5 FM The Roar. Thank you so much for making Locked On Clemson your first listen of the day. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network now, the #1 sports podcast network. And that is big thanks to you guys out there, the everydayers who hit that follow, who hit that subscribe, and stick with us Monday through Friday every single week. And here on a Thursday show, we're going to continue our discussion on the portal talk, why what they're doing is working, and also throwing a little bit of basketball because the basketball team had a great win last night. But thank you so much for tuning in. If you haven't already, make sure you hit that follow and subscribe. If you haven't already, make sure you check me out over on X at the Morgan T Show. And let's go ahead and just jump right into it because the fans seem to be extremely excited right now. And why wouldn't they be? I mean, there's a ton of momentum for Clemson with using the transfer portal. I mean, it really feels like Christmas Day again, all over again. If you're a Clemson football fan, after a 2025 season that was very frustrating, ended on a good note, but then ultimately ended in a bad note in the regular season, ended on a good note. And ultimately, though, in the postseason, started off with a bad note, losing to Penn State. But now, since Dabo and the team have started in the transfer portal, I mean, it has been extremely exciting to watch. I don't think any of us really expected Clemson to go this hard into the portal, to have this much success at the very beginning. And maybe it's wrong on us to have been such a naysayer to not be reminded that Clemson is still a national brand that still has a lot of respect in the eyes of players all across the country, and still is a destination that people want to go to. And they want to develop at, and they want to be around Dabo and be under his tutelage and be under Tom Allen. It has been really exciting to see what Clemson has done so far. And there's still some skepticism out there from the fan base. And we'll talk about a few things that I think are warranted for sure. But the biggest thing is the portal momentum and the big picture, because that's where I think Clemson fans want to live and kind of focus on, because the last few days, it's not Clemson trying to use the portal or feeling it out. It is operating with intent. And this matters. When the portal opened up, Clemson, we all said this, did not have the luxury of just testing the waters or playing it slow, as we've been frustrated in recruiting, over the years, of this slow playing everything. They didn't have the luxury of that, especially in the portal when you only have a certain amount of time where you can talk to these players, where you can bring them in for visits. The luxury of being patient was not there. There are too many defensive departures from the 2025 team, too many premium positions that were thin in depth, even before the departures were gone. The depth was thin. So too much was riding on whether this staff could turn around what happened in 2025 and improve this roster, rebuild from the churn, and some of that necessary churn that was needed because those players were not excelling at a high level. But here's the key thing that I want everyone to understand is that this is not happening by accident. This is not happening because Dabo decided yesterday to really embrace the portal. These are things that were planned and deliberate over the past couple of months. And Dabo obviously has seen what a lot of things we've seen and been frustrated with. I'm sure Dabo has obviously been frustrated with a lot of the things that we have been frustrated with. And this kind of momentum, this kind of calculated attack to the portal does not happen by accident. Inside college football, portal momentum is real. Players watch what other players are doing, where they're committing to. Agents talk to other agents and talk to their current players and say, what the teams are needing and give them an idea of where they could go next. Confidence builds quickly once you land the first couple of guys. And Clemson needed early wins, and they landed them. We talked about Luke Forelli committing early. It wasn't just about adding a linebacker. They added an ACC Defensive Freshman of the Year. It was about sending that pause signal out to the nation that Clemson is serious, was serious, is serious, and is still serious about attacking this transfer portal and entertaining players, getting players to visit them, and giving them real opportunities to play for Clemson and have a role in the team, not just a role, but possibly even starting position. So I'm not saying guaranteed, but at least talking about these things, which in the past, what we've heard is, well, we'll pick up this guy, but he's got to earn it, and he's got to start at the bottom and work his way up. And really, that's just, there's no luxury in that either anymore. There's just too many gaps on this defense, especially. So Clemson needed to send a signal, and they did so for sure. That big time commitment wasn't the first commitment, but it was one of those ones that kind of said, hey, wow, Clemson's really going after some heavy hitters out there. They're not hesitating. They're not dabbling. They're not testing the waters. They are moving fast and strong. And once that happened, things seemed to be speeding up extremely fast. 7 portal commits now as of today, 8 portal commits or additions to the team. These are decisions that are happening while they're on visits. Dabo's always said, hey, when you get a player into Clemson, all they need to do is get them on campus, because once they get on campus, then they can really see what Clemson is all about. And I feel the same way. That's why I really wanted to be a student at Clemson, because when you get there, you kind of see, okay, this is different. This is what I want to be around, and this is what I want to be a part of. And I want to walk across the stage for this. For me, it was walking across the stage. For those guys, it's going to be going onto the football field. Multiple positions needed help immediately. Decisions needed to be made immediately and start to snowball. And that's exactly what's happening with Clemson. That is preparation meeting opportunity. And you can't say that this world of college football has passed Dabo by, because what we're seeing is it hasn't. He's maybe been a laggard, right? He's been a laggard with getting to this point, and it's frustrated us, man. It's made us grind our gears. It's wring our hands. We've been so mad about it. But again, Dabo didn't just wake up Friday and say, oh, you know what? Maybe we should do the portal this year. Dabo didn't just wake up yesterday and say, maybe we need to kind of like find some names. Somebody give me some names and put them on my desk by the end of the day. The groundwork has been laid weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks ago. Visits have been planned, and boards were stacking up. Evaluations, even before they saw them, were being done behind the scenes, and Clemson is seeing it pay off. I mean, they have a good list of guys that you can add and really be excited about going into the 2026 football season. Now, as you're seeing the college football playoffs tonight and tomorrow, try not to be so disappointed about evaluating what's out there with what Clemson had in 2025, because this is windshield mentality. As I told my flight student today, he had a couple of bad flights in the past couple of weeks. He had a couple of bad lessons, just really kind of felt down on himself because he wasn't where he wanted to be in flight school. And I said, hey, you know what Dabo Swinney always says, man, it's not looking out it's not looking through the rearview mirror. You got to look through the windshield, have that windshield mentality. And I'm glad that Clemson is having that windshield mentality, because we all want to dump 2025. We want to flush that. 2025 was not fun, but look at these guys that they've added. Elliot Washington II, Luke Forelli, Jerome Carter II, Donovan Starr, Corey Myrick, Courtney Kelly, Marcus Strong, and now, as of today, London Merritt. Clemson did not panic when the portal opened. They purposely started working towards reconstructing their roster for 2026. And we're all here to be excited about it. And I hope you are too, because that's the big picture, is that Clemson is moving forward. Dabo is adapting, and the football and football and college football, the way we know it, has not passed Coach Swinney by. All right. Hey, next up, we're going to talk about those players a little bit more on segment 2 of Locked On Clemson. let's be real. Managing your finances can feel overwhelming between subscriptions you forgot about, bills that keep going up, and trying to figure out where all your money actually goes each month. It's easy to feel like you're losing control, and who has the time to track every single transaction or hunt down every single hidden fee? That's where Rocket Money comes in, the personal finance app that helps you take control. It finds and cancels unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps you lower your bills so you can grow your savings. Now, I love the app because it's easy to use and you can see graphical what's going on your week. Because for me, when I used to use a spreadsheet, it just doesn't work as well. When you see it visually like that, it's so much better. So you can set budgets, you can set goals, you can set personalized, you can get personalized insights, you can receive real-time alerts. Let Rocket Money help you reach your financial goals faster. Join rocketmoney.com/lockedon. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. All right. Hey, thank you again for making Locked On Clemson your first listen of the day. And thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. I love Locked On because, it's not just Locked On Clemson. I mean, you can go and listen to Miami if you're getting ready for the game this weekend or tonight. If you're going to get ready for the game, if you're on the Ole Miss side, you can listen to them. For tomorrow, you can listen to those teams, Indiana, and Oregon. And so it is really exciting for me because there's so many different shows out there. And for me, after football season's over, I start listening to the Braves and all kinds of stuff. So if you're a everydayer already, well, then go over to the Everydayer Club and check it out. Access to ad-free audio feed for Locked On Clemson. Invite to the members-only Locked On Everydayer Club Discord server. You can check it out at lockedonclemson.supercast.com or tap the link in the show notes to learn more about it. All right, hey, segment number 2 here on Locked On Clemson. Let's talk about what Clemson is actually building, because this is where the optimism is getting real, starting with the defensive line. Clemson lost to Phylon Green, and I think, a lot of people were really upset about that and frustrated. And then he went to LSU and drooled all over about how LSU and playing for Lane Kiffin was his childhood dream or whatever, Personally, there are way better childhood dreams than ever playing for or wanting to play for Lane Kiffin. I mean, why don't you become a pilot? That's the greatest childhood dream. I mean, trust me. But anyways, the greatest childhood dream really, is going to Clemson, right? Getting a degree from there, walking across the stage, stuff like that. But Lane Kiffin, no, that's not a good childhood dream. Trust me. No. All right. So when Phylon Green left, it was frustrating because, he was not a guy that was like, oh, well, this guy's never going to play. He was definitely a rotational guy this year, and he was going to be a starter next year. Clemson could not wait around to try to guess what their answers would be. They had to go out and attack immediately. Clemson really needed help at safety, at cornerback, at nickel, at linebacker, and defensive tackle and defensive end. Literally every single position. Did I not just name every single position on defense outside of, that's it. So Clemson could not afford to kind of wait around, and they didn't. They went and got the West Georgia guy, Courtney Kelly, that a lot of people felt like was a really good pickup, even though he wasn't playing at the highest level. He's got that pedigree, that build, that frame that you want. Marcus Strong from Oklahoma. Honestly, it was kind of nice to take one from Brent Venables, because over the years, it seems like Brent Venables has kind of had a little bit of an upper hand in some of the recruiting things. So it's kind of nice to have Clemson actually get a win in that aspect. And then now, as of today, defensive end London Merritt from Colorado. That's important because, you add in 2 defensive tackles. We said that Clemson needs probably 2 defensive tackles. Now Clemson adds in that edge rusher, and it fits the pattern that we're seeing right now across the whole defense. They're exclusively defense right now, and there may be, a lot of fans still have some panic around that, but we may need to step back and say that this is a strategy. Okay, Clemson is not having any sort of desperation in these ads. They're not trying to just do a bunch of rental 1 year and gone panic guys either. Clemson already knew who they are going after In a lot of ways. They offered a lot of these guys. They've talked to them, seen them through high school. They know that there's history there. There's a little bit of relationship still built, and there's trust from Dabo. Now, when you look at like Merritt, he was a former 4-star PFF All-American, all freshman team. He's joining in the rotation, and he's not going to save the defense by himself, and he doesn't need to. It just tells you that Clemson is focused on adding layers to their defense, building out their depth, building out rotational guys that can come in and contribute early on and quickly. And with the interior guys, they're developing depth along the defensive line, and you have to have a strong defensive line to be able to be competitive long-term in college football. I would say if you're not going to go full money on a quarterback, which it seems that Clemson is likely not going full money on a quarterback, then I would say drop as much money as you can on that defensive line, that offensive line, and all the gaps that you need. And unfortunately, Clemson has a ton of gaps. They have a ton of places they have to fill in, but they are doing that, and they're doing it quickly. They've now, in my opinion, they need maybe one more defensive end depth-wise, but they've pretty much stabilized the defensive front. They've thrown in Forelli to go in there with Sammy Brown and Alexander. That is going to solidify or help solidify the second level, playing fast, playing violent, attacking instead of just waiting for opportunities. That's exactly what Clemson's defense lacked last season. And now they've got some big help even behind them in the secondary. Washington, Carter, Myrick, Starr, 4 defensive backs in the portal very quickly. And that was the biggest area of concern. Even when they had those guys that were on the team, we knew that they really weren't up to the level. Losing Khalil Barnes, he goes to Georgia, but at the end of the day, just going to Georgia is not going to improve his speed. Ricardo Jones, I don't know where he's gone, if he's gone anywhere yet, but going anywhere, even if it's in the SEC, is not going to just all of a sudden make him fast either. I'm not saying that they're bad players or bad people, but Clemson needs speed. Clemson needs good tacklers. Clemson needs guys that can play with instincts. Clemson needs physicality, and they need discipline too, to be able to be where they're assigned. And Clemson missed that on defense for sure. And it seems as if they're going full on into the defensive side of the ball to fix those problems. Not star chasing, fit chasing. Not money chasing, fit chasing. And we're seeing a pattern across that from the back end of the defense all the way to the front line. Tom Allen is clearly being given autonomy here, authority here. And honestly, it shows that Dabo Swinney trusts Tom Allen and his staff to go out there and build what he needs. Addition for this team with these 8 guys, it feels exactly like what Tom Allen would want. And that's what you want to do. You want to be a main guy, a head guy like Dabo. What do they always say? When you become a leader, if you've ever been a supervisor, if you've ever been a senior manager like I have, when you go to these leadership meetings, what do they say? How well are you empowering those around you to be able to perform at their highest level? You as a leader don't drag them along. You don't push them along. You enable and empower them to be able to reach their full potential. And Dabo obviously has been doing that on defense. And that's why I think it's important to think about this. This is strategic. Dabo believes that his offense is pretty solid. I mean, it's not a coincidence that 8 players right now are all from the defensive side of the ball. We know that the need was defense. Anybody who says, man, we need this guy or that guy, this guy on offense, outside of offensive line, I would say, no, you don't. And maybe Dabo still believes in some of those guys he has on the offensive line too. I believe under Chad Morris, Dabo trusts and believes that Christopher Vizina will take the next step forward. Will it come back to haunt him? Well, I put on X myself. Honestly, if you stack out and you let Tom Allen build out his defense and it's a top 10 defense in the country, Christopher Vizina can get you 9-10 wins. I mean, let's be honest. That's what I really feel. But the question's still out there about quarterback, and can you leave it ignored? I don't think it's necessarily ignored. I think they're just trusting the development that they've made and the decisions that they made at that position. for 2026. Maybe it'll backfire, but hey, that's what I feel like that they're pushing forward going forward. So, all right, hey, segment number 3 for the everydayers, and for those of you who have been wanting me to add in a little bit of basketball, I mean, we'll talk about it in segment 3, Clemson Basketball, and the program that has confidence right now in their season. All right, segment number 3. Thank you so much for making Locked on Clemson your first listen. Again, follow me over on X at the Morgan T Show. Hit the follow, hit the subscribe so you can stay with me. We've been having a great beginning and end to the season in the year. December was my best year ever, views wise. January is off to a great start. Really, I've been so thankful that you all have joined me and been a part of this show, because if you really think about it, it was kind of weird. I like to say that God put this in front of me. I was offered an opportunity with Locked on Clemson, and I decided not to take it originally because I was too busy at work as a senior manager. And then I left that job to pursue flight school. And honestly, I needed something to be able to continue what I was passionate about, which is Clemson football, Clemson sports, and also had experience in, which is working for the radio. But I needed some way to kind of supplement not having a stable job anymore and going to flight school, and everything just kind of aligned. And Locked On, has been a great support for me, and you all have been a great support for me. Even if you don't agree with me, I love your comments. So please keep coming and keep being a part of the show. It really means a lot to me, and I hope to keep this going until my airline schedule comes around, and I can't do it, but I'm going to keep going as long as I can. But let's talk about Clemson basketball, because I know you all have been asking me to talk about it. And the thing is, Clemson fan base is super football focused. And when the hottest thing is going on, which is the transfer portal right now, I'm going to focus on that. But I don't want to ignore Clemson basketball, because last night mattered. If you didn't watch every possession, the story of the SMU game was clear. Clemson beat a ranked team because of discipline, balance, depth. Brad Brownell basketball 101. SMU came in averaging 90 points a game. You think a team is going to score 90 that averages 90 against Clemson? Think again, because Brad Brownell is going to shut you down. Brad Brownell is a defensive mastermind, and Clemson held him to 70. It doesn't happen by accident. Brad Brownell brings the defensive structure that can lock anybody down. The team can back that up with effort, and, the game management was really well as well. So what stands out to me is just how many different players contributed throughout the game, and really this whole season. You're not going to define this season from Clemson basketball by hero ball. There's not just that one guy. I mean, you could probably say Godfrey or God 3, if you will, for hitting that 3, but I still, even with Randall Godfrey doing so well and coming back and being such a great story, this team is not hero ball. And no one guy is like fully carrying the load. 8 players scored meaningful points, played meaningful minutes. The bench outscored SMU's bench by a wide margin. And that's not just something that is good for one night. I mean, that is something, if you can keep doing that, you're going to win a lot of games, and you're going to be a very good team. And I do think Clemson is a very good team. And this is not a fluke. This is kind of how they have been built. The Brad Brownell, the portal master, if you will. Clemson now undefeated in ACC play. They've won close games. They've won physical games, and they've executed late. Dylan Hunter, I was kind of skeptical about him being taking on that leadership role, but he's done fine with it. He's controlled the pace. Godfrey has owned his position. Butta Johnson hitting big shots when it matters. Really exciting to listen to. I had to watch some of it and listen to some of it on the radio on the way back from the airport. And, Johnson hitting some threes was nice. This team, kind of the opposite of football, this team knows what it is, who it is, and how it needs to play to be successful. And that's why it matters overall, because Clemson basketball doesn't have to have the perfect matchup. Clemson basketball doesn't have to have that one player go off to be able to win the games. they can win ugly games. They can break it down and beat you up in a slow game. They can impose their Brad Brownell style on you. And that, that's something that wins at home at Little John Coliseum. And that's something that wins on the road as well. So, don't get it twisted. Football is definitely dominating the headlines. And right now that has got to be the front and center for this show. Because that's just what everybody is caring about the most, the portal, football, what's going to come next for 2026. And I know 2026 is far out, at least right now. This is the start of the off season for football, but it's still kind of the number one thing. But basketball is picking up and continuing that momentum quietly while we allow the portal to kind of get through. For the first time in a while, I feel very good about Clemson football and their rebuilding and the challenges that they're addressing. And for the first time, well, I mean, I've felt it for the past couple of years, but Brad Brownell, Coach Brownell has been so great at just knowing what he needs for his system. He's not going to lose his identity. He knows exactly the type of players that he needs to fit his style of basketball. And it just works. And the portal has been such a help for him as well. And for a first time in a while, both programs are what we would say moving forward, not sideways, not backwards. Momentum is being shared across both. Now, I'm not saying that they actually matter with each other, but it just feels as a fan, both areas, basketball and football, are in a good spot right now and carrying some positive momentum forward. So I'm excited. This is a good start to the 2026 season for both teams. Obviously, even with the portal talk kind of stealing all the headlines, I hope that you've enjoyed these shows and like continuing to support Clemson in any way possible that you can, whether it be just watching the games or donating or whatever you may be doing. I do believe that Clemson is still a top level program in football and basketball, and even women's basketball is coming on, and can't wait to roll it into baseball and softball and soccer and everything else as well. So, hey, thank you again for making Locked On Clemson your first listen of the day and tuning in. Friday's show, we're going to continue the discussions around the portal and maybe even talk about these two games that or this Ole Miss Miami game, how they did and what we can learn from that. If you haven't already, subscribe, follow Locked On Clemson, get the latest episodes. Follow me over on X. In between episodes, I talk some things over there at the Morgan T Show. If you never miss an episode, you can always check out the Everydayer Club. It's built for you. Get Locked On Clemson ad-free, plus members-only Discord access and more. Head over to lockedonclemson.supercast.com to join the club. For those of you watching on video, next is the 24/7 Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. And on audio, click a few clicks away and you can go over and find Locked On College Football. And as always, Tiger fans, we'll see you tomorrow, and we'll see you at the top of the hill.